welcome to the 84th episode of the Nerdom and Other Nonsense Anime Podcast. Today, we are covering the 8th week of the 2019 winter anime season. 8 is my lucky number. I'm excited. Woo! Okay, as always, we include timestamps in the description of the YouTube video and the podcast feed if you only want to hear about, I guess, a few shows because you're lame. And I guess we also spoil literally everything. So,
casuals.
Yeah, fucking filthy casuals. My name is Kat, and now that I have met Leo, and I realize how close we actually live to each other, I know abducting him one day will be so much easier.
I'm afraid.
You should be. Also with me are Leo and VCOM.
Hi.
Okay,
I
guys.
met Leo too, and I know that abducting him would be pretty easy because he's small and portable.
Oh, he's not that tiny. Leo has the most amazing beard. Like, he has one of the only beards on a guy that I've ever seen that I'm like, you actually did good with that.
Someone in our Discord told him he looks like Norman Reedus from The Walking Dead. I was like, yes, he does. Kind of. He's got that beard.
What'd you do for nonsense, Become? And then we'll get back to that.
Oh, okay. So I made the mistake of going to see another anime movie in theaters.
Another anime movie?
Yeah. Fate Stay Night, Heaven's Feel, Part 2. Shit, I forget the subtitle for this one. It might as well be, Pervy... the pervy section.
Pervy Boogaloo.
the H part. So I say mistake because so I went to a different theater from that one last time where I watched Mirai, and they showed the wrong movie, and then they moved us to another theater, and then they showed the English dub instead of the Japanese.
I remember that story. It's so bad.
So I went to the good theater this time, and I'm sitting there in the opening credits part, and I'm like, this is really strange. All of these voice actor interviews are the English dub actors for Heaven's Feel Part 1. This is really weird.
Oh no.
Why they keep talking about Heaven's Feel Part 1? I'm so confused. Even the trivia section it has Heaven Feel Part 1 Presage Flower printed. I'm so confused watching all these previews. The movie starts, it's fucking Heaven's Feel Part 1, and the whole audience goes ah! What are you doing? And so literally 3 minutes after, they immediately just switch over.
Oh,
they go to the. Oh, sorry.
How do you make that mistake? That's crazy.
A bunch of angry weebs just standing up from their seats, and throwing popcorn in the aisles.
Exactly.
Having a rage mosh pit and weird movie people coming in and trying to calm them and
Breaking news: Weebs take over local theater and hold manager hostage.
Just the idea of seeing a bunch of enraged weebs just moshing angrily with popcorn flying in the air. I would love this.
All these angry weebs are we paid good money to see Sakura Mato get naked, and we're not going to be deprived.
We're not leaving until you show it to us.
And so they have to switch back. So basically the movie theater system operates as a DVR, except a high quality DVR. So it's a Dish Network thing. So they go back out to the Dish Network screen, right, on this DVR. And you can see that one of the movies is called Heaven's Feel, and the other one is called Fate Stay Night. And I guess the Heaven's Feel one was Part 1, and the Fate Stay Night one's the one they actually needed to click, which was Fate Stay Night, Heaven's Feel Part 2. And that's how they screwed it up.
So you may want to actually
way too easy mistake to make.
A little bit before you decide you want to play a fucking movie in your theater.
you would think, yeah.
Okay, look, the high school student upstairs taking care of that doesn't feel like he gets paid enough to do that.
Don't know, yeah.
I get that, though. I do get that.
Yeah.
Ugh.
But the movie was pretty solid, actually. It's a really gorgeous movie from UFO Table again, and they always do gorgeous stuff, but the background art in this is just so slick and beautiful. It's a really pervy movie at times, which, hey, it's fun, whatever. It's a really, man, I had never read this part of the Fate visual novel. It's the third and final part. And it definitely goes places. It goes some dark and weird places.
Dark, warm places.
Yeah, the places that Kat knows very well,
Yeah.
but I usually don't go. And so I'm sitting there like, wow, holy shit. Kat would be in there like, it's fine, I guess.
I'd be like, I mean, I've seen better, but you know.
Yeah. I would recommend watching it. Like, I liked it maybe slightly less than the first part, but it was definitely like really interesting. I just think there were fewer cool battle scenes, though the ones that they did have were amazing. But it was a little bit drawn out, I think, because it's the middle part, and so it was a little longer than it needed to be, probably, to get through all of that exposition in the middle part. So I was like a little bored by the end of the movie, but there were still just enough peaks that it like kept me interested. So it was good times.
Yeah.
Cool. So with me, it was pretty interesting. So Brains from the Trash Pandas drove down and stayed the weekend with Kat.
Yeah,
So,
he did. It was fun.
Kat like threatened me. Like, we're meeting up.
Okay, because I was like, okay, we should meet up on Friday. And Leo's like, I don't know. And he's like trying to come up with excuses. He's like, I have this going on Friday. I have this going on. I'm like, no, Leo, this is happening. You don't understand.
Yeah,
Like,
so
I'm pretty sure that Brains can find your house if we need to. He does have connections. And you're just like, fuck, she's right. And then you're like, okay, I'll meet you here in this neutral location.
yeah, it's pretty much in the middle. It was almost exactly 40 minutes for both of us to get there.
Yeah.
And I remember Kat distinctly saying, wow, we're a lot closer than I thought. And I was like, shit. She's like, wow, we could do this more often. I'm like, oh no. So yeah, I just picked like a local brewery to go to, you know, so
nice.
Kind of for Brain, so you could try some of the beer. And we met up there, and Kat kept trying to put something in my drink. I don't know what that was about. No, but it was a really fun meetup because I got there first. So I went ahead and got the table and I sat down, and I was like, I'm left in the bar. Well, they came in and like almost walked past, and I was just like, hey. And then Kat gets like this huge shocked look on her face, and Brain's just like, what's up? And I was like, what's that about, Kat?
I don't know. I just had this image of you in my head, and it wasn't the same image.
And I really want to know what that image was because you were in a shock on your face. I was like, what the fuck was she imagining?
Well, because you said your hair was long, but so I was imagining like, you know, the usual neckbeard type with like skinny with like long hair, you know? And I was like, okay, we're going to find this person. And then I was like, nope. That person's too well groomed. Nope. And then I was like, oh, it's him. Oh my God.
Damn, heaven forbid I take care of myself. Yeah, but it was awesome. We actually sat there and talked for 5 hours and could have kept going. Could have kept going easily, but they had to get back. But it was pretty fun conversations. There was a couple of funny points where like Brains and I would start talking about video games, and Kat just like, she's like,
Oh, I would tune out. Oh, I was done.
And I would start laughing because you were doing it so robotically. And then at one point, I had to explain to her what a nerf is.
A nerf?
Yeah, like how a game gets a nerf, like nerf a character or a weapon.
Oh, a nerf. Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. She had no idea. We had to explain that to her. But other than that, you know, we talked about anime and everything else, and it was really fun. I wouldn't mind meeting up again either.
Yeah,
Nice.
no, I would totally be down for it. Yeah, like, and then they would go back to anime, and I would get so animated for a while, and I'd just be like, thank God, we're back to what I know. Oh, yes. It was great. But
That's awesome.
Brains also educated us a lot on tanks. That happened too.
And headphones. He educated us a lot on headphones, yeah.
The bone conductive headphones, he really likes them.
Yeah, they're epic. I was like, holy shit, because I was like, these do not work. Well, because I have a pair of swim bone connecting headphones, but they're a few years old, and like the technology has definitely improved since those.
Huh.
Because they're a lot better than the ones
I've never even looked into those. That's cool.
Yeah, they're cool.
Yeah, and I looked into them then because I can wear them at work because I don't have to take my earplugs out.
Oh,
so
smart.
It works for me. So after that, they left, and I was definitely afraid for Brains' life. I didn't know what Kat was taking him into that night.
So Brains has been going through some hard times, and I was like, we're going to take you out we're gonna party. I'm gonna show you a good time. It's gonna be great. And so we went to the liquor store on our way, picked up a bottle of vodka, and I was like, this should be more than enough. I never drink more, I'm okay. We get to the club, sign in, takes a while, put the vodka down in the area where people are allowed to put their drinks. Through the course of that night, we drank that entire fucking bottle between the two of us.
Oh my god.
I don't know how we lived.
Oh man. I remember the last time I drank an entire bottle of vodka with like a couple people, and it did not go well. I was like wandering around a foreign city at night, unaware of where I was. It was not good.
No, it was great. It was great. And I had somehow managed to buy a type of vodka that had like the slippery silver like cap, and it was so like I have weak like hand strength because my hands are actually kind of small. Like friends call them like doll hands, and so like I have girlfriends who can like put their hand over my hand and like bend a whole knuckle over my.
So you're saying is you're like a real life K-On! Character, like little tiny
just
hands.
My hands, yeah, are weird. So
Man, I didn't notice. I'll have to pay attention next time.
So I'd like be trying to open this fucking bottle and I couldn't because it's too slippery and like too all that. And so I'd like go across the whole club and there's like music and there's people like naked just in the middle of the club, and I'd be like tripping over them and like stepping, sorry about that, and then like get to Kyle and be like, Kyle, open the bottle, I can't open it because I couldn't open it. And then Kyle would be like, okay, and he'd like open it, and then he'd like pour one for himself, and I'd be like, thanks.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I messaged Kat the next morning. I was like, "Is he alive?" She goes, "Well, he's snoring."
Well, we got back at like 5:30 or something in the morning.
Jesus.
And I like looked out and I was still the text, and I was like, "Is he alive?" And I like went out and checked the couch, and I just heard like, and I'm like, "Yeah, he's alive."
That's good.
It's good. It's good. We had a blast though. It was a ton of fun.
That's good. I'm glad you guys got to meet up and it was a really good time. That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. It was it was fun.
You know what else is a really good time? Mob Psycho 100 Part 2.
I feel like I wrote this synopsis forever ago.
Tell us the tell us the title of this episode, Leo, and then tell us the actual title of this episode.
I like how we both kind of went with the same joke, but it's called Even Then, Continue Forward. But I thought it'd be more appropriately titled Mob Runs with the Wind.
Yeah, or I called it like Run with the Mob.
Yeah.
It totally is that running episode.
So the Psycho Helmet religion is like getting out of hand. It's pretty funny. They have like built themselves an HQ and expanded to like 700 some members. Ichi also thinks it's finally time to reveal Mob to them. And like the school has this upcoming marathon. So she asked Mob to use his powers and like blow everybody away at the race. Mm-hmm. And like also like the association is going to be there because they know he went to that school because they saw him at Regan's press conference. Like they were able to recognize his school uniform.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, even though Mob still doesn't want to, but he does want to get in the top 10 so he can finally confess to Tsubomi. So yeah, that's not going to work. You're a little too weak for that. And then like basically everybody, and I mean everybody starts helping Mob train in some way for the marathon that's coming up in 10 days. He like ends up getting a pair of running shoes from Tenga. Reagan tells him to take time off from work and even runs with him. And like, of course, the fitness club's like lecturing him and trains Mob in running. Even his brother and Taruki fill in for him at work so he can concentrate on running. And it's kind of funny because while he's there, Ritsu hides when Tsubomi and a friend named Miki come in for relationship advice. And at first, it's just Miki who's asking for advice. But Tsubomi looks like she's like kind of bored and she's looking around and she sees some photos on the wall for like satisfied customers. And Mob's even in one of them. So she asks for advice about a guy she talks to all the time and goes to a different cram school.
No.
Yeah,
She's in love with somebody else.
Yeah,
No.
Regan unknowingly says she should go ahead and ask him out, not knowing she is Mob's crush. And Ritsu's like, I don't have the heart to tell my brother about this, that she's actually in love with somebody else. But right afterwards, we quickly find out that she just made that up to test Reagan, so her friend wouldn't get scammed.
Which is smart.
Yeah, and then, it specifically shows that she definitely noticed Mob's photo. Like it does a shot back to her, like looking at the board and just zooming in on that photo. So
she's actually observant.
Yeah, she's. I mean, it kind of makes you think she might also have always had feelings for Mob. Also, you know. Mm-hmm. And then the day of the marathon arrives, and as soon as it starts, like
apparently it's really bad scrape because it just looked like a scrape to me, but shit, doesn't he? Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious it's hard.
Passes out later from the running or whatever.
Yeah. So I was like,
and he's just trying his best, and Tsubomi does notice, so that's interesting. At one point he really starts to struggle, and Regan shows up to run with him the last kilometer to help him maintain pace. And then suddenly Mob just wakes up in the nurse's office and apparently passed out during the race. He never even finished it. Mm-hmm. Interestingly, his brother managed to get 9th place.
Mob's really happy for his brother too, which is cute.
Yeah. And then back at home, they're waiting for Mob to get home when the doorbell rings, and then Ritsu answers it, and he finds his name was Sho Suzuki. He's from the end of season 1 at the door.
He's part of Claw or whatever.
He's just a really powerful Esper, and Ritsu becomes immediately worried. And then on his way home, Mob sees smoke and arrives at his house to find it burning. He's kind of shell-shocked and just walks into the house looking for his family. He eventually opens a door into one of the upstairs rooms and finds 3 charred bodies. And then he does that triple question mark thing.
Damn, you summarized that in 2 sentences. I would have spent so long on that.
I was shocked that they showed the bodies. Oh fuck, his family is fucking dead.
Maybe
that is a huge deal.
I don't see the show doing that. That seems out of place.
I hope that they do. Not that I
also hope
his
they do.
family is dead, but I feel like if they're gonna do that and then psych us out and be like, oh, but they're not really dead, I'm gonna be disappointed in the show because I hate psych outs like that. It's kind of bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, I could have drawn that out, but it was just him walking around as Dimple, tries to tell him to settle down or something like that, and it's whatever.
So I thought they set this scene up well in a couple different ways. There was first one thing, earlier in the episode, they show him with his parents when he's a little kid, and he scrapes his knee, and then he loses control of his powers. And things start floating through the air. That's in the very first scene of the episode. And so actually when he scraped his knee in the track meet, basically the marathon, I actually thought he might lose control of his powers.
Yeah, but
his powers.
Nothing comes of it.
Nothing comes of it because he's learned to control himself entirely. And I think that's the point of that part in the episode, to show you oh, he's completely in control now. He'll never lose control, blah, 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 blah. But then also throughout the episode, there's all these moments where you just get these great moments with Mob's parents and with Ritsu, who all support him despite how weird he is and love him unconditionally. And then at the end, when he comes back to his home completely on fire and is just hoping that they're anywhere not here. Ritsu was home, he would have taken care of them, anything would have happened, there's no way that they would be here, and then walks into that room and sees the charred bodies on the floor.
Dad's so reliable and
yeah, exactly. It just rips his whole support network away from him in just this really dramatic way that of course he goes into the triple question mark percentage thing. I don't expect his whole family to be dead. I feel that's very cruel. And as Leo always says, if you don't see the death on camera, it's usually not real. Yep. But man, if this is the way they chose to do it, man, that would be a really powerful and dark way for the series to go.
Yeah, and I think it would have so much impact, and it would make me respect the series as a whole a lot more than if they do the bullshit oh, we psyched you out, and it had this dramatic moment, and now it didn't really happen. I'm going to be really angry if that's what they do.
Maybe for us, but I think a larger broader of their audience wouldn't want that to happen at all.
You know,
Yeah.
the larger, broader audience is a bunch of pussies, and sometimes in a show, eggs gotta get cracked to make a good show.
Let
You
me
gotta
just make
break a few eggs.
I'll make the most well-known spoiler possible right now about the Avengers movie that was recently came out.
Oh, yeah. Like,
I feel
everyone
the
doesn't already
same
know.
way as Kat about that. Like, where it's like, oh, everybody died? Good.
Yeah, if they don't take it back, no take backsies on deaths, okay?
Yeah, don't take back. Like,
if you do the bullshit where you're like, oh, but not really, I don't trust you anymore as a narrator. And
Yeah,
also,
Marvel is heavily going that direction. Come
oh,
on.
absolutely. Yeah, everybody
Yeah.
knows. But like, in that sense, I still think like in Endgame or whatever the new movie coming out, like it'll be about the journey to getting them back. And like, whereas here, I think like even in the moment, this worked really well. Like this was shocking to me. And it took me a moment before I really thought about it and was like, wait, are they actually doing this? But so like before I got to that cynical point, I was like really shocked by this and it actually really worked. For me, like emotionally.
Yeah, it did really work. And like I said, if they keep it this way, then I will have a huge amount of respect for Mob as a series. And in fact, I will say that this series is even better than the first season, which is something that I think a lot of anime you can't say. Usually the season 2 is not as good as season 1. So
I'm just ready to expect a lot of disappointment from Kat next week.
oh, just wait. If it comes and it's like they're not really dead, just wait for the rage quit. Just the
I know it's gonna come. It's gonna be Jesus.
My prediction will be something like Claw like knows about like Mob's like %% thing and they wanted to like force him into it
push him.
or some bullshit. I don't know, but like we'll see. Maybe they really did it. But let's go from fake running with the wind to real running with the wind.
Yeah, run with the wind. Listen, you gotta admit this show's getting good. Come on.
Oh yeah, it's climaxing with the moment of release.
I read this title, just started laughing. I was like, what?
So the moment of release makes sense though in this episode. There's like several moments of release, I feel like, but none of the type that Leo and Kat are thinking about. So this is episode 19. We pick up with Prince running in the first leg of the Hakone, and he's taking Haiji's advice and drafting off of a pack of runners in front of him to get like a windbreak, they call it, so he can conserve his stamina. And so, like, 17 kilometers in, the runners reach this Rokugo bridge, which is an uphill section, and, like, the pack starts to pull ahead of Prince, finally. And by the way, almost everyone else on their team is, like, listening to this through, like, either a radio broadcast or live stream on their phone. So you feel like everybody's, like, invested in the race and, like, watching. They're not just, like, sitting around or anything. Prior to the race, Haiji told Prince that as long as he stayed with the pack up to the bridge, even if he fell back at that point, he could still hand the sash to Musa without too much time loss. So, like, Prince muses that, like, the real race is from leg 2 on then, and he says he'll just finish as fast as he can and return to his comics, since he's an amateur anyway. And, like, Haiji's like, okay, yeah, and just, like, apologizes to Prince for forcing him into doing all of this in the first place, but despite all this, as Prince is running, he keeps telling himself that he's strong and that he's worked hard to succeed and all this stuff. And meanwhile, the TV broadcasters are singling out an exchange student named Iwanki, who we've seen before, who they're looking forward to in Section 2, because he ran it last year as well, in that, like, legendary sprint. And so this is going to be Iwanki's, like, 4th Hakone and his last one. And the TV broadcasters then turn to Musa and Kakeru, who are, like, watching this on their phone. And they point out that Musa is another exchange student, though they mention, like, he's on an engineering scholarship. He's not here for running. But they also talk about, like, how unique Kansei's team is and everything. And Iwanki comes over to them to tell Kakeru that, like, he enjoyed their qualifier race. And he's disappointed that he's not going to face off against him. But Kakeru is like, well, don't worry, because we got our ace, Musa, who's not going to let you just win easily. So yeah, just building Musa up a little bit. So Shindo also calls Musa before the race to encourage him, and yeah, Shindo's from like Yamagata Prefecture in northern Japan, and he tells Musa like they should go visit his home after the race and see all the snow, because I guess Musa's never seen snow before. And by the way, like Shindo's still got a fever, and Yuki is taking care of him, but like, damn, he's kind of fucked for his leg of the race. I'm looking forward to that episode.
Doing for the his leg, because like
I think that's going to be next weekend. Yeah, that's rough.
Well, because this episode was very lighthearted almost, but like
it was, yeah.
And also, has most of the people in Japan not seen snow? Because like most of Japan doesn't get snow. So
there's like a lot of northern parts of Japan that definitely do. I don't know how often it snows in like Tokyo or Osaka, but it does snow sometimes.
Like Sapporo and like the areas around there would snow, but then the rest of Japan, not so much.
Well, it's like still like somewhat temperate, so I assume they'll get snow sometimes at least, but I don't know how often. Yeah. So at the 20-kilometer point in the race, the old coach like is driving behind Prince and like says, "Oh, I have a message from Haiji for you," and he just says, "There's something I never got to tell you. Come to Surumi even if you have to crawl," and that's like the next checkpoint that Prince has to reach. And like Prince has been thinking that Haiji hasn't been expecting much of him, and so like he flashes back to their conversation. Like he remembers that like he had told him he wanted to hear something more encouraging, like something from Hajime no Ippo or for something from Ashita no Joe, like some like really encouraging manga bullshit that's like those guys don't want kindness, they just want to be told that they have to win and they're expected to win. And so when he hears this message from Haiji, he gets really pumped up. And so he's coming down the final stretch and he thinks to himself like, I hate running and like Haiji dragged me into this, but also, if I don't finish now after coming so far, I'd hate myself even more. And so, like, he's, like, elated once he finally sees Musa, like, beckoning to him at the checkpoint. And he passes the sash onto him. And finally, like, this whole burden of, like, everything, like, being the worst in the whole group, having to, like, become, like, an actual runner from being somebody who could barely walk, basically. And, like, all of that is, like, in this moment of release, like, put onto the shoulders of the next guy, and he can finally just let go, and he like collapses into Haiji and Kakuru's arms. It's pretty great. And so yeah, then it's Musa's turn. He starts like the flat section, and he kind of like imagines himself running on a plane in Tanzania where he's from. And like because of this illusion, he's actually going like too fast of a pace, and so Heidi has to like catch up to him at one point and give him some water and tell him just like, "Hey, relax! Like you're running too fast. Like you're already passing people. Like you're good." He also gave him advice before the race to be like calm and confident, and like just that like section 2 isn't like the end all be all. Like he doesn't have to like win back like first place here. Like as long as he just like is solid, like they'll be fine. And yeah, like Musa feels better after like Haiji gives him some water, and like even though he thought he slowed down his pace, he like keeps passing people. And he also thinks to himself that the meaning of running is like more than just speed. It's about your teammates and your opponents, and like hearing the voices of encouragement from the crowd and letting all of that propel you forward, which makes sense for his character as he's like the guy who supports everybody else most of the time. And so now he's the one being supported. And so, like, he hands the sash on to Jota, and, like, King tells Musa that he passed 7 runners in Section 2, which puts them in 14th place. And so Jota starts running the third leg, and he had just cryptically told King that, like, since King hasn't been going to job interviews, he should run next year. But Jota also kind of implied that he won't be running again. And so Jota's thinking about Joji during his leg of the race, and how despite being twins with him, they're different in a lot of ways, which is like finally they're differentiating between the two twins.
I was like, we're finally going to answer this fucking question. And I love how like basically he says, oh, like Joji's the one who's gonna keep running, but I get the girl in the end.
Yeah. That's totally how he feels. Yeah. Because, Joji's the one who, like, Jota has noticed has been, like, training before dawn at times, or, like, when they're running with Kakuru, he's trying to perfect his form to, like, catch up to him and, like, surpass him. And Jota's all like, yeah, I want to see him do that, but, like, it's not for me. Like, that's not what I want. And Jota thinks that it's time for him to, like, release that part of his soul that, like, has connected him with Joji all these years, or that he's like resided in, basically, he says. And like, meanwhile, Jota is passing a few more runners, and like at this point he sees Hanako on the sideline, and she's yelling like "Fighto" to him and stuff, and like he thinks to himself that maybe, just maybe, Hanako likes him.
Well, because that's why she has to go all the way from the front of the race and like get to his portion. Like, she went out of her fucking way, like majorly, to do this. So you know she means something.
She means something, yeah. And he hands the sash off to Joji, and he's like, I think Hana likes me. And Joji starts, like, screaming and runs off, and that's where the episode ends. But the thing is, like, what if Hanako catches up to Joji in the next part of the race and, like, cheers for him, too?
I'd be like, no, Hana, you only get one. You can't marry them both. I'm just imagining, like, a weird marriage ceremony where she's got one of them on either side of her.
Yeah.
She's just like, I promise to cherish them both. It's like, no, bitch. You gotta pick one.
They set up a situation, though, where, like, they did a really good job of, like, differentiating, like, this is what Jota wants, this is what Joji wants. So it could be a situation where she did see that difference in the two of them, and she does like one of them and not the other.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
They finally figured out a way to set that up. So
that's what I think they're really doing. I think that's the whole point of that part of the episode. I just like my little jokes. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious that basically Joji is going to keep going, and Jota is going to get the girl. Even split. So.
Yeah. And I also like that each person in their own section of the race is clearly going to learn like what running means to them as part of this. And it's like going to be a culmination of like the things that they've learned over the course of the show. And so it's just nicely written, like it was nicely set up, and it's all coming to fruition now, which is good.
Yeah, and I mean, I've known a lot of people who are twins, weirdly enough. And there is that weird point where they, like, a lot of twins feel this intense need to differentiate themselves.
Yeah.
Like, for a long time, they're like, we are the same, and that's all fine and good. But then at some point, there becomes this weird moment where, like, they're like, we need to be different. Very different. So it's interesting that they're having that moment now in college. Because a lot of twins have that way early, like when they start to be...
Yeah. I knew a pair of twins who kind of went through that in high school. Like they were,
it's usually high school or middle school.
Like two different groups of friends instead of the same group of friends, like completely splitting off into different interests, Yeah,
one of them usually cuts their hair. One of them dyes it or something.
Yep.
Yeah. So, it's interesting that they're having this so late. It makes me think they must have really had a strong bond of some kind, because usually this will happen much earlier.
Yeah.
So, but hey, they didn't fight or anything, because most of the time that split off is like, fuck you! I hope I never see your face again, which is my face! So at least they didn't do that. You know?
Yeah, it's not that bad.
So, yeah.
Speaking of the same exact face, Leo, tell us about Kemurikusa.
Yep.
Oh, God. Once again, the most boring show that we've covered. And
oh, no. Running with the Wind is the most boring show we're covering.
No. I think this may, in my opinion, be the most boring show I've ever covered on this podcast.
One thing I do have to say about Running with the Wind is 3 down, 7 more to go, and then we could fucking turn it off.
That's what I say about Kemurikusa. Oh shit, I only have to watch how many more of these fucking episodes? Every fucking time this show's on, I'm like, I have to at least try to pay attention. Okay, go ahead,
boy.
Leo.
Go ahead. We resume with the squad just finishing up a battle and recovering. They're trying to stay in like the lighter fog areas and as far away from the routes as they can, just to avoid battles. But they don't have a very reliable map. Hey, but no worries, because the little robot they start calling White One shows up with a way more detailed map for them.
I'm sorry. When you say it like that, White One.
Well, in Japanese
really
they call him
bad.
Shiro. They call him Shiro,
really
which means
bad.
white.
Yeah, it's White One.
I know, it's funny that they translate it as like the White One.
Like when Kat shows up to the glow in the dark bowling alleys, it's the White One. She glows.
I actually am so fucking pale that when I go to the glow in the dark like the black light.
Yeah,
it makes it makes
glow
my
a little.
skin glow. I'm like, no.
So with the better map, they can now navigate their way from Island 8 to Island 9, where they believe the trunk of the red tree is. They eventually come across like a train tunnel with no red fog and travel through it. White One also continues to follow them and asks Wakaba if he needs more help. And it also like learns the names of all the other girls. So that was cool.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah.
I wonder why it wanted that information.
They continue through the tunnel, and Wakaba reads some more like journal entries. Entries. Bleh. Apparently, Rin is in possession of the memory Kemurikusa, and Wakaba like asks her if he can touch it, and she's like, "Oh no, you can't. It's dirty. It's pervy. I don't know."
Well, he's like asking to like reach inside of her like torso and touch her from her. You know, it's like a little private. You know, I don't know.
If you touch my Kemurikusa, I'll touch your Kemurikusa.
Oh shit! Now there's gonna be porn online about that, Leo. What the fuck?
Yeah.
There's porn about everything. It was inevitable anyway.
Oh man! Now just oh god, it's a glow in the dark. Like they just touch it and it glows, and they go, "Oh yes!" No, fuck. Okay. I did notice there was one point where the older sister, she like falls down at the beginning, and I was so angry because she's like meow or something, and like tries to make some stupid cat noise when she fucking falls on the ground. It's like no
I took
one
a drink
does
when you said that. That was almost a disaster.
Nobody fucking does that.
From somebody named Kat, you know, I think the lady doth protest too much, is what I think.
Mad. I'm just saying, no one does that, and I was like, how dare they try and sneak this stupid cat noise into her falling on the ground? Let me just put my protest there on that.
So they're coming out of the tunnel and into a station. They find that their path has been blocked by like a cave-in. And Wakaba can also sense that there's like red root on the other side, and that's what caused like the cave-in. So they end up taking this path next to him and leads them to like outside. And what they see is like a huge mountain in the distance. And in between them and the mountain is a large valley that's like super, super thick with red fog. And they don't know what to do. And White One asks if another map would help. That's when they then follow it to like a ferry boat that's like full of a bunch of these smaller white ones. And like the little
smaller white ones. Okay.
The little robots say like all kinds of stuff like captain's gone, no more job, red roots came from other side. They came from Island 9, and they ask Wakaba to be their new captain and they give them orders. They just live to serve. They could have been called the black ones, and this would have been way worse.
Shit, Leo.
This would have been really bad.
Glad they avoided that.
Yeah, that could have been a pretty big disaster.
I just hate the fact that they started calling him captain. Like, why not just bring him a fucking ship hat or something? Make him a pirate. I don't know. Like
my captain.
Yeah. So he asked for like a map of Island 9, and like one of the other little robots had it. And they find a path that could potentially take them there. Unfortunately, there's that red root that's laying over this bridge. And they're kind of sitting there trying to think of a plan. And then like the white ones all combine into like this big machine with pincers and offer to cut the root. And they go and do that. But like it tries to fight back a little bit, but they end up cutting it in the end. And they're like, oh, well, we're going to stop functioning before we turn into the red ones now. But we're very thankful Wakaba gave them purpose again. Be Calm had to wipe the tears from his eyes.
I never thought I'd get so upset about a bunch of Roombas dying. But like, they're more than just Roombas. They have Kemurikusa leaves inside them, and like, so they're kind of living things, and also maybe not too different from the girls, by the way, who may not be much more than robotic tools themselves.
There may be some kind of connection. Yes. They were originally supposed to be sex dolls, Cat. Didn't work. And like Ren gets moved by Wakaba crying over them and asks if he would cry if like one of them died. He's like, of course.
Yeah, but I think she was asking that because like he's crying over these robots and they're kind of similar to them. And she wants to know like, would you cry for me too? I guess it's a little bit cheesy, but I guess I understand why she asked.
Yeah. And so then they go along the path and they come out on the other side and they find the mountain covered in red roots and frogs. Ren, that would be interesting. Ren also says she doesn't want anybody to die, even Wakaba. So she's like really come around on him. So that's awesome.
Yeah, they've definitely come around to him. Like, I noticed that between like this episode and the last episode, Wakaba no longer has those vines around his torso that they had like had him in since episode like 1 because they didn't trust him. So they clearly trust him now. And so, yeah, we learned a lot about the Shiro or the white like BB-8 units, whatever the Roombas, like
the white Roombas.
Yeah. So since they can like transform together and become like larger robots, it's very clear like they form all of the red bugs. Like the corrupted white ones are the red bugs. Like once they've been corrupted by the red smoke.
Right.
But they also mentioned that they don't like the blue smoke either, because we saw last episode that can corrupt them as well to like co-opt them to protect like the blue
like to
wall.
defend the wall. Yeah, that was interesting. So
they clearly had an initial captain who they prefer taking orders from him, which is interesting, or her, which I assume was probably like the first person or something that they always refer to. And like Wakaba is somehow related to that person. That's why they kind of want him to be the captain again or something. So that was cool. There was also like a theory alluded to in the yellow Kemurikusa pages that the sisters represent different parts of the body or senses, like the eyes, ears, nose, and tongue. Like Rin is the body. Yeah. Stuff like that.
I think that had more to do with why some of them have different senses.
Yeah, like Riku with the skin, like being able to feel and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it just got me thinking, like, I wonder if all the sisters are going to, like, form, like, a Power Rangers robot at the end of this show to fight a big bug, because I'd be so down for that. I wonder if they're all parts of, like, one whole, and that's going to be, like, the big climax. I just really hope
it has Ritsu's ears to piss Cat off.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, it's going to be so good. I'm going to buy that figure. Actually, I don't even want a figure. I just want 2 fox ears that I can just like put on top of a shelf somewhere.
Oh no!
Yeah, it has like a the green base that kind of goes off a little bit, so it's so perfect.
If those fox ears exist, I don't know. Like
I'm buying Cat a pair.
No, you're gonna buy a pair, and then I'm gonna put them on you because I will never wear them. How dare you suggest that?
No, you don't wear them. You just set them on like a shelf somewhere, so it looks like she's there listening in on you and talking with you.
Ugh.
Like we'll meet up, and I'll be like, "I have a gift for you, Cat." You'll be like, "Ooh, what is it?" And I'll be like, "Ta-da!"
I kind of want them to be sticky, so I can stick them to like the side of a bookshelf, I don't know. It'd be fun.
That'd be perfect.
Anyway.
I really want some now, actually.
It's a great idea. Leo, I have a business proposition for these guys. Let's email them. All right, so let's move on to the Promised Neverland. Kat, tell us about
other business propositions.
So shit gets real this episode. Fuck. Okay.
Yeah, it actually made me wonder if it's different from the manga, considering how much happened this episode.
I doubt it, because like I think everything was set up to ready to go at this point. Like it had built up for so long to this point.
Mm-hmm. Like we kind of knew this shit was coming. So like it starts out with Krone getting that letter, like the last episode. And
Krone.
Well, that's how they pronounce her name in Japanese.
Yeah,
like I noticed that this episode too.
I did too. I kept thinking like the reason they're saying Krone is because they're Japanese and they can't conceive of the idea that there's like a syllable and they're not going to pronounce the syllable. Like that doesn't exist in their brain.
So I'm actually curious how they pronounce it in there's got to be an English dub for this, I assume, which I haven't seen, but I'm curious if they say Krone.
It was made in Japan, they probably say Krone. Maybe,
yeah. I don't know, we'll see.
Who knows?
Well,
but yeah.
E and hiragana or whatever is A. That's how they do say it, so it's not too surprising.
Which really, if you think about it, like the idea that we have syllables in our words that we choose not to pronounce because we all have like weird schizoid language tendencies.
Knife
is dumb. Like we all just collectively looked at it and we're like, we're gonna put it there, but we're not gonna say it. That's really dumb of us. Like that's on us more than them. So But yeah, so Krone still isn't happy. Like, so I thought when she gets, so basically you find out she's going to be a mama, like a mom at another plant that's like not as nice as the plant that they're at right now. And so basically Isabella is bribing her to leave. Like, she wants Krone out and she doesn't want her to make a fuss, so she's bribing her. And I thought that Krone would be happy. I thought she'd be like, okay, I'm getting what I wanted. Whatever, that's all I wanted. I'm out of here. But she doesn't. She's very angry. And this makes me think, like, she definitely had a grudge against Isabella in particular.
Yeah.
Like, this wasn't just, as she said, like, oh, I want to get ahead or whatever. It's definitely not about that. It's definitely about her versus Isabella. And I don't know if that's a rivalry thing or if that's because she has a grudge against her for something she did. But there's definitely something going on there.
I think she wants to prove that she's just as good as her. Like, it might just be like that kind of like jealous inadequacy feelings. Like,
maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like, oh yeah, something else is going on here. Because otherwise she'd just be like, yep, that's a great thing for me. But I guess we'll never know because of what happens next. So, so she gets like all her shit, goes to the drop-off area. There's this lady there who's apparently the grandma, so like the one in charge of all of the moms.
Clearly, she flat out looks like a grandma. Come on.
Yeah. And tells her everything she knows. Basically is like, listen, all these other kids know now. It's getting out of control. Blah, blah, blah. The grandma is basically like, well, it doesn't matter what you say because I need Isabella, and so I'm just gonna kind of shoo this under the rug, and you reporting to this to me is a problem. So
well, she kind of like, actually, I've been in on this with Isabella the whole time too.
Yeah, like she basically knew, like, and it doesn't matter. She basically, Krone finds out it doesn't, like, it's rigged, right? It doesn't matter what Isabella does because Isabella makes these high quality, like, food meals that none of the other plants make.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what rules she breaks. They need her. And so
also,
they're going to shove whatever she does under the radar.
And also Grandma alludes to the fact that, like, she used to be the mom of this plant, and Isabella was one of the kids, like the orphans back in the day. Like, there's this brief scene where you see Isabella standing on top of a wall, like just like Emma would or like Norman would, to like try to escape. But like, she was able to control Isabella and like change her mind, and she basically trusts in Isabella to do the same with like this crop of, like, you know, high quality resources, whatever they consider them. So yeah, it was interesting. So like, once Krone kind of realizes that, she's like fucked.
Well, yeah, and she basically is like, oh, I am screwed. And I almost wonder to myself, were they gonna ever let her escape? Like, if she'd just been like, okay, and left, do you think they would have let her?
Maybe, but
because part of me's like, no, they were gonna fucking kill her. But then the other part of me's like, no, maybe they would have just let her if she just shut her mouth and been like, okay.
But she's not that type of person, though. Like, so, and I think they know that about her. I think Isabella has suspected that.
I mean, they are pretty insightful. But yeah, so because she went and tattled, like, they have a demon ready, and they're like, now you're gonna get fed to the demon, bad girl. And like, you feel for her though, like, because she has these flashbacks right before she's about to die, and you just see like how hard her life has been, and like how hard she's worked to get where she is, and like all the effort she put into surviving, basically.
Yeah, and basically her time when she was at the orphanage as a child herself.
Yeah, and just how, like, and then she went through that terrible surgery, and like, fuck, and then she had to wrestle a bunch of people and like apparently sew for some asinine reason.
It was like you're training to become a mom.
Yeah,
is what it was.
You don't need to know how to sew a freaking heart on a piece of cloth to be a mom.
Well, look, these kids are running around. They're playing tag every day. They're losing their buttons. You know, you got to sew those clothes up.
You gotta be military trained to sew a button. Well, I don't know.
I think the thing with Krone is that, like, basically at the end of the day, she never really accepted the role of being a mom. Like, she always, I think, had that, like, rebellious spirit and was always going to want to try to either escape, but, like, she tried to make the best of being a mom, but she just couldn't do it. She's not Isabella.
Didn't like her situation.
Yeah, I also think the sewing could be just like an image thing. Like the moms had to have a certain image.
Yeah, probably.
So that's probably just part of it.
I don't know. Who knows? But then what the fuck is with this flower? Why would a demon be like, know how I choose to kill her? I know it's symbolic and all that bullshit. But
No. This is a made up flower for this show specifically. Yeah. And what it does is it preserves the bodies. So she's going to go get eaten.
It like basically sucks blood out of them, sort of, and like preserves them. Yeah.
I had to look it up because I wanted to know if it was a real flower or not. It's not a real flower. It's just completely made up for the show to serve the purpose of preserving the bodies, which is why Connie got stabbed with it. That's why in like the OP, I think it shows like everybody who's dead is stabbed with one. This is because they're being preserved for the demons.
Okay, because I was like, what? Like I figured it was symbolic or something. So I was like, why would you?
I did too, because I'm like, flowers have a lot of symbolism, and I look it up and I'm like, it's not even a fucking real flower. God damn it.
But yeah, I was like, okay, you stabbed her with a flower and now she's dead apparently. What the fuck? But yeah, so that happened. And then you get this scene with Ray and Isabella where he's like, oh, let's go switch out the because remember he had that excuse where he's like, oh, they're going to try and poison you. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, let's go switch out the chemicals so they don't poison you. And they go upstairs. And then when he's on the stairs, she's like, I eliminated Krone. And he's like, bum, bum, bum. And then they go upstairs. and then she's like, I didn't need her anymore. That's why I eliminated her. And then she's like, and now you too. And I'm like, oh, fuck.
As we predicted, Isabella has been like 5 steps ahead of these people.
Oh, yeah. I mean, she is an adult. Like, I get it. Like, she's supposed to be smarter. Otherwise, she wouldn't be in this position. And she's somehow foreseen everything that they were going to do. Like, she knows. So basically, the whole reason that Ray was doing this is to try and, like, do a distraction so the kids could inspect the fence. And she knows that they're doing that. Like, she knows everything. And so she locks Ray into this room and she's like, I'm gonna go get them, and like goes. And Gilda and Dawn like see Isabella come out without Ray. And I just think it's so funny. She just walks past them. She's just like, oh, I see you guys. Bye. And it's just, I don't know. And they're like, oh, that was weird. And then Dawn goes and like breaks down the door with Ray in it. And they decide that they're going to try to stop Isabella instead of trying to, like, prevent the kids from, like, meeting her and, like, stopping them, which I think was a weird choice.
I guess. I don't know. I think they know that Emma and Norman are in trouble right now, so they're running to Isabella to try and catch up.
I mean, yeah, it's whatever. But apparently it doesn't work anyway. I mean, Isabella meets up with Emma and Norman. And Isabella says, like, in 10 years, this is the first time I've talked to you without acting. It's just us. Let's talk candidly. And you're like, oh no. And you're freaking out.
Here she is.
I know. And then she's like, I love you so much. And that's why I want you to give up. Doesn't she say, like, I love you like my own children?
Yeah. Basically, like they are her children,
exactly.
She feels.
Yeah, and she's like, I don't want you to suffer. I want you to have a happy life for as long as your life can be. And it's almost like that argument of what you would say to a cow if a cow could talk, right? You'd be like, I don't want you to fight and be stressed because that's hard on you. And I want you to have a happy life before I eat you.
It's this whole thing of like, don't make me do this to you, like, is what she's saying.
Basically.
Yeah.
And she's like, outside is full of despair, and you don't want that. You don't want to live like that. And basically they're not buying it. And Emma tackles Isabella while Norman goes for this bag. And Isabella's like, that's what I was waiting for, and just fucking annihilates Emma's leg.
Isabella's just kind of like, I guess we're going to do this, and just snaps her fucking leg. And I'm like,
just annihilates her. Just, like, crushes it. Like, bends it backwards, basically. Her fucking knee is just done. And so Emma's, like, on the ground, like, screaming. And, like, the crunching noise that it made.
Oh, God, it was good.
Oh, it was a good... And then, like, the dead silence for a second. Like, they were playing that for emphasis.
I like how Isabella says, like, it's been a long time since you hugged me, Emma. Like, she read, like, Emma tackling her as, like, a hug. And she's, like, patting Emma's head, like, oh, here, there. It's fucking sickening.
You're like, there wasn't a fucking hug, bitch. And, like, yeah, they all catch up at this point. So everyone's in this clearing. And Isabella's like, I had to do this because otherwise you guys weren't going to give up. And I thought about it for a second. I'm like, oh, she picked Emma because they all love Emma. And, like, they won't leave without her.
Good point, yeah.
Like, and think about it, like, if she'd done this to Norman or if she'd done this to Ray, like, the other one might leave without, them, but not Emma.
Yep. She's, like, the center of that whole triangle. Like, she makes everything work. Yep.
Yeah. And then she's like, Norman, your time is up. You're gonna leave tomorrow. And then Norman's like, da-na-na! And, like, that's the end of that episode. And you're like, fuck.
So there was some really good stuff I liked in this episode where they were cutting between different scenes. Like, when Krone is about to get eaten by, like, those aliens that, like, they've given her up for dead, basically. It cuts to, like, Isabella and the children back in, like, the food hall saying, like, itadakimasu, like, thank you for the food.
Oh, yeah.
That was cryptic and good.
It was so good.
And then it was like, gosh, it was like, thank you for the meal after the thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck.
There's, like, a couple things, like, little things. Like, Krone leaves behind this pen that was in that montage that she picked up when she was still in, like, training school to be a mom. She leaves that and something else in Ray's bed drawer. So that'll be a thing, I guess, whatever that is. And, yeah, when Isabella drops her act, it's really unsettling. I that part, like, really got under my skin. But I also wondered what the significance was of, like, Ray. He's in the middle of a conversation with Isabella when she, like, basically, like, tells him, like, I'm turning on you and, like, I don't need you anymore. And he starts coughing. And I was like, I wonder if is this just, like, a nervous cough? Or is he, like, sick and it's coming out now? Like, is there something wrong with Ray that we don't know about? I was even thinking, like, maybe she poisoned him. But I don't know if that's the case or not. Because they had been talking about chemicals and stuff. And I was like, oh, shit, what if she, like, poisoned Ray? But maybe it was just a random cough, but, like, you don't usually see random coughs in anime, so I'm wondering what that's about.
That is a little odd.
I'm glad we finally got to this, like, climactic point, though. But that, like, when I think about it, I'm like, okay, like, where do things go from here?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's
so
really
fucked.
Yeah, it's like she's. I don't know what the kids can do. They're completely outmatched by Isabella.
Yeah. Shit. I think they just gotta do their best and just make a run for it at this point.
Well, it's gonna be hard for Emma to run for a long time.
Well, they're gonna have to carry her or some shit. I don't know.
Launch her in a catapult.
Or maybe they'll, like, feed Emma to the king, and then Emma will, like, stab him from the inside and just be like, bye, bitch! And that'll be
considering their extensive skills, I'm pretty sure they know how to make a splint.
Yeah, probably. She's still gonna need some time to recover, though, and in that time, it seems like Norman's gonna have to leave. So,
I think they'll all be shipped even before her bone even remotely starts healing.
Could be, yeah.
And like a month they got left,
something like that. Yeah,
I don't know exactly. I'm just wanting to see if it all comes around, and then Emma's like the next great mom.
Oh, that would be so weird.
Oh, that would be gross.
It'd be so fucked up.
That would be so
and like
fucked up.
what? So like even more fucked up stuff would happen to make Emma have this like change of mind.
Just like a crazy psychotic break. That's what would have to happen.
I don't know if I want to see that.
She would have to stay like smart and cool like Isabella is, I think.
Could happen, I guess. If they're playing the long game, if she feels like that's the only way for her to win eventually. Maybe. All right. Well, let's take a break and hear a word from our other fellow podcasters, and we'll be right back.
Yeah. See you in a minute.
Hi, I'm JD, your host of the Red Leaf Retrocast, your best location to learn, remember, and relive the past to the present. Our podcast has 4 shows for you to listen to between retro gaming, modern gaming, anime, and even wrestling. The Retro Gaming Cast covers discussion topics, and each episode we discuss retro games picked based on a decided theme for that episode, ranging from space all the way to console specials like the old handheld Game Boy. Our Modern Gaming Cast is monthly and covers video game titles that were released in that previous month. Each anime cast, we focus to review a retro anime each and every episode, like the original Mobile Suit Gundam to the racing hit Initial D. But that's not all. We also keep up with the seasonal shows, by occasionally doing impressions and reviews as well. Finally, our last show is about wrestling, where we keep the rising indie scene up to date, while also covering shows from the bigger promotions like Ring of Honor, New Japan, and WWE, so we cover it all. We also cover a retired wrestler every episode in what we call the Wrestler Spotlight, and are currently on a quest covering old WCW Thunder episodes from the late 90s, every cast. So if any one of those casts sound like something you'd like to check out, that's the Red Leaf Retrocast, Gaming, Anime, and Wrestling, found at iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, and all your favorite podcasting sites. Also, you can learn, remember, and relive the past to the present. We can't wait to see you soon.
The following is an extract from Reanimator Pod episode 47, Blood, Blood, Blood. Taka discusses Des Irae.
Most of the characters in the show, particularly the villains, have more than one name, like many more than one. For example, the super powerful mage from my synopsis is Karl Kraft, also known as Mercurius, also known as Faust, also known as Saint Germain, also known as Paracelsus, also known as Cagliostro, also known as Copophilia Smudge. Woo! Okay, that last one is a Reanimator special, but the rest are all legit. Like, he actually has those names. How about a few more?
He's got more names?
No, they're other characters. He actually had that many names, though. Wilhelm Ehrenberg is Kazikli Bey, because why not? Valeria Trifa is Christoph Lohengrin, who's a priest and is commonly referred to as Father. Lord Heydrich is also Reinhard, and Teresia is Rhea, but Fujiren, aka Zarathustra, is our main character, and also refers to Rhea as Senpai. So we never really learn her name until other characters start calling her Rhea. But really her name's Teresia, so I don't really know how that adds up. Ugh.
And if you like that and you want to hear more from the Reanimator Pod, head on over to reanimatorpod.com. That's reanimatorpod.com. New episodes are out every Monday.
Don't drop that. Hey, don't drop that.
And we are back with JoJo.
JoJo.
JoJo, da-na-na-na-na.
And we finished our review of JoJo. Man, where did the time go? Let's move on to domestic
the opening for JoJo so
skip.
much. I can't fucking help.
Oh no, you're going to be so sad. It changes. This was the last episode. Yeah.
Well, I still haven't seen the new opening, but I hear it's great, so don't worry.
I don't know. What can be better than da-na-na-na-na-na, fighting
the
gold.
ED is not as good as this one, though. I don't know what the ED is.
Interesting.
Something different. But episode 21, The Mystery of Emperor Crimson, which is still the mystery of Emperor Crimson, because I don't know what his powers do.
I think I'm starting to get a grasp on it. But
I honestly do have a pretty good grasp I'm comfortable with, but like, even after watching the episode, I still had to do some like research into it.
Yeah.
Well, I will say his stand is the ugliest fucking stand so far.
Do you not like that extra face in its forehead?
Yeah, it's got like an extra face, and it looks weird. It looks like a misshapen shark.
It's really fucking weird.
Okay, so before I even try to tackle what his powers actually do, I'm going to take a drink of this whiskey, and hopefully it gives me some courage.
Oh no, Leo! Don't do it! And we've lost him.
Oh, I'm here.
So sober Leo is gone.
This is another way to skip moments in time. Just drink enough whiskey and you'll wake up and not know where it went.
And things happened, but you don't remember them. So we're going to call him King Crimson because that's his actual name.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so just bear with me. Outside some weird stuff that like happens really quick, like Naranchi and Mista are like fighting over some chocolates, and then they like suddenly end up in Naranchi's mouth without his knowledge, and he's just like nom, 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 nom.
I love how he doesn't question. He's just
no, he
like,
doesn't. They're just
I like
in there.
This. And then he eats
I think
them.
anybody's going to question something if it's suddenly in your mouth and you don't remember putting it there yourself.
You wouldn't just be like, "Yay!" You'd be like, "What the fuck?" And like,
But this is Naranchia we're talking about here. So, and then like also when Fugo asks Giorno to pass him a bottle of water, Giorno never actually gets over to him to give him the water, but he just suddenly has it. A second later, Giorno's like, "Hey, thanks," and I'm not Giorno, but Fugo's like, "Hey, thanks." Giorno's like, "What the fuck is going on?" So he
Giorno literally says, "Something's bizarre."
I know. I made a note of that, and I was like, "This is epic." He said it.
He dropped
bizarre.
So Giorno's very suspicious, and he steps onto the island, and like Leone starts to yell at him to get off it when like he is just suddenly at Giorno's back with a hand on his shoulder, and then now everybody's like, "What the fuck is going on?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like all their shocked faces, especially like I think Leone's was the best because he's just like, "And how did I get over here?" So this is basically being all synced up with what happened with Bruno on the inside, I'm assuming. Right?
Yeah.
So what you thought become, yeah. But then we go back to Bruno, who has a fist through his stomach, but he then like zips it up and it locks King Crimson's fist in him. But it's not enough, as he explains that he can see the moves ahead and nobody remembers what happened during that time when he looks ahead in time. And I just wrote that line myself, and I'm still baffled. After doing some reading up, what he does is he removes himself from reality. So he's able to move around, but still not able to alter anything until he comes back into reality.
Okay.
So yeah. So he sees what's happening, and then he's like, "All right, well, I'll just move over here, so I'll dodge the punch this time," you know. This is so crazy. But then like Bruno gets like this like crazy fatal wound. I lost my place. There's too much typing.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, yeah. So Bruno suffers like a fatal wound from this, and he like goes down. And like since he's out of the way, probably shouldn't say his name because I haven't revealed it yet.
Yeah.
Boss Gangman goes over to Trish and can sense that she's definitely his daughter and must kill her to secure his throne because she would also be able to sense that he is her father. And just
Luke,
before...
I am your father. I'm sorry.
Trish, I am your father. And just before he can get the killing blow, Giorno turns the ladybug button that's like on the back of him into like... they borrowed some of the genes from the turtle, and King Crimson gets sucked like back in before he can kill Trish.
Okay,
And,
what
like,
is this show's obsession with turtles?
Well, other seasons it's usually dogs, but
Oh yeah, at
Because
least
like
dogs are
this
getting a
season,
break.
there's been a lot of turtles, like an abnormal amount of turtles.
it's the same turtle. It just has a really good stand ability. And then like Bruno also quickly unzips the floor so the turtle like falls into the water system and gets carried away. And we're just not called Nerdom another nonsense quote for no reason. So get ready.
Yeah.
King Crimson is back immediately, and Bruno somehow tricks him when he uses his time skip and manages to like unzip a pillar and get away from him and up to like the first floor. Then Giorno immediately heals Bruno because he finds him up there and checks out the hole in the floor to suddenly see the zipper disappearing, which basically means Bruno's dead. He turns around to like find Bruno dead, and he doesn't understand because he's like, I just healed him, I just gave him everything. Why did he die? And then like Bruno's ghost tells Giorno to get the others and get out of there. And then he turns around to look for it when Bruno sits up himself and he's like, we gotta go. It's so this whole synopsis as I'm running it is just like, this sounds so fucking crazy.
It is really weird.
It's, dare I say, bizarre.
So the others arrive and they all flee. Even like King Crimson is afraid to face all 6 because one of them would likely see his face. He's really just not want to see his face seen. Did you guys want to say something?
Well, I was thinking about like Bruno, and I was like, well, maybe he died, but then like King Crimson deleted the time of his death or something. So he's like some kind of weird zombie in limbo right now, where his body doesn't possess the knowledge of his death, so like he can still continue to move on, but like he's actually dead because he doesn't like feel pain or anything, right? I think you're about to talk about that.
The nail later, like as we'll say in a minute.
Can I go get a tinfoil hat first, real quick?
Sure, proceed. Go for it.
So they get outside, and Bruno gives everybody the choice of going with him or not, since betraying the boss means you're probably dead anyways. Like they all feel like that they're not going to make it. And then like he also falls to the ground for a moment, and he says it must be because he lost so much blood. But Giorno is like really confused because he's like, my stand would have replaced the blood also. And he also notices that like Bruno's hand has been like pierced by like this like splinter on the ground. And then there's just like no blood coming out of it. So it was really weird. So
it made me think for a second, like, is it not really him? Like, is it like a replacement? Like,
maybe
it's all fake. So it's all just to find out which ones are going to betray him, like the boss.
It's rough. I don't know.
I don't think so. That would be so convoluted, but.
So anyways, like I said, he gave everybody a choice to come with him or not, but Leone is like the first to decide he'll go with him. And he kind of says because he only feels comfortable around him, and like he kind of saved him, you know, from the past. And Mista is kind of like, if we do manage to kill the boss, then I might move up in rank. So then he joins. And Giorno was kind of on board the whole time anyways, but whatever. And Fugo and Narancia haven't decided yet. And so like
he's my favorite.
So they go ahead and they start like going away in the boat. And then like at the last minute, Narancia realizes he like relates to Trish a lot. Like abandoned by his parents, yada yada yada. And then he's like, I will protect her, and like he swims after them. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, he's like, wait for me. And they're like, it took you fucking long enough, dude.
And like they stop and they get him in the boat. And it's like, okay, it's cool. But like in the end, Fugo, he never decided to join them, so he kind of just goes his own way. Yeah. And then it finally closes out with like some guy saying, Squallow, we have some traitors, and it's come straight from the boss. That's how the episode ends.
Yeah.
So I guess I was really confused about King Crimson's range, because like I was confused in the beginning of the episode when the guys start feeling the effects of time and everything. I was like, oh, why are they feeling it? Like, was King Crimson out on the docks? And that can't be, because he's up in the clock tower. He's waiting for Bruno to get up there. And then I figured out, like, no, when he deletes time like universally for like everyone in the world. Like, that's the only way that works.
So do you think like deja vu like moments are just because of him?
I think that's probably, because like it's really weird. Like, if everybody in the world feels like they lost like almost like up to 10 seconds,
well, you think everyone would be like, wait, you felt that too, and it'd be like a phenomenon that everyone wrote about, right?
Yeah, everybody, like, I'm sure certain people would just be, certain people will be asleep, so they never know. Certain people would just be like, that was weird, I don't know, and move on with their life. But there would be some people who are in situations where losing 10 seconds is not something they will forget. Like, there's a lot of situations that could be in.
It also makes me wonder what would happen if he went up against Jotaro.
Ooh, yeah.
Like, how do these two? Because one stops time, one deletes time. Can he delete the stop time, or is him stopping the time? or stopping the time, not allowing him the opportunity to delete the time, and then your brain runs out of your nose.
Leo, you're going to break your brain, yeah.
It's okay. The next show broke
the next
me
show.
in different ways.
Oh, man.
Domestic Girlfriend.
You wrote way too much for this dude. What?
I didn't write quite enough.
There's
don't
something
know.
wrong with you.
Domestic Girlfriend was not that amazing.
Let me tell you how amazing episode 8 of Domestic Girlfriend, Then I Don't Have to Be an Adult, was.
Let me tell you my funny little story right down here.
Okay.
So I'm sitting here watching it, and we know I watch it. It's on high dive, so I can like watch it at 2 times the speed and just get it over with. And like Bob comes in the kitchen, and he's like, "Why does that show sound so funny?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm watching it 2 times speed." And then he's like, "Oh, what's it about?" And I was just like, "Oh shit." So I told him, and honestly, God, truth, he immediately goes, "Is this a porno?"
Well, yes.
I go, "Actually, not. It is not a porno." He's like, "If you say so," and then walks back to like his room.
Whatever you need to tell yourself.
You should tell Bob that they are making a hentai version of episode 1, so it is indeed a porno now.
I mean, it already basically was. They just had to just go a little bit extra. That's all.
I'm just like, all the shows we're watching this season, and this is the one you asked me, what's it about? You could have asked any other show. It would have been immeasurably better. No, I have to tell you about these siblings fucking. Sorry.
Yeah. Bob's from Indiana. He gets it anyway.
That's
I
Kentucky.
wish that wasn't true, but I mean, let's be honest, it kind of is.
So Natsuo is frustrated, as he often is, because Rui's like still being really cold with him at the beginning of the episode, and he can't understand a woman's mind. And so she also asks if Natsuo stole her underwear.
Understand a woman's mind?
Nobody
Okay,
can.
we're not that hard. We're pretty simple.
You make it harder than it needs to be. That's all I'm going to say.
I mean, if we're honest, you're like, oh, you didn't want to be that. I wanted you to be that honest. So, like, what do you want?
I mean, that sock puppet you had with you at the bar really confused me. I didn't know what you were doing with that.
Shit.
Get me more vodka. So she also asks if Natsuo stole her underwear because they're missing from like the clothesline. He's like, "Why would you ask me? Why would I do that?" Blah blah. He gets like really defensive. Meanwhile, a new trope in the form of this beautiful blonde man named Alex, who is a new kid at the school. This blonde gaijin boy is introduced to the show. He comes barreling down.
Wait, did you call him a new trope?
Yeah. Well, no, for this show.
Okay, for the show, yeah. I was like,
No.
a foreign blonde? That's not new.
No, he's
I
just
was
an
wondering
old trope in this show.
Why they felt the need to introduce this dude?
Well, I don't care because he's so
Why-
ridiculous.
Why do they feel the need to even do anything in this fucking show?
Well, because what purpose does this guy serve?
Well, he's a threat because he wants to go out with Rui.
I mean, but that could have been anyone. I mean, she's hot.
That's true, but he's funny, so I don't care.
He's like, I don't care. I just want the funny.
He's literally riding a bicycle down an indoor hallway and crashes into Natsuo and then yells in English,
does do
"My
that.
life sucks!"
I know.
And it's the best thing ever.
I think my favorite of his English lines is like, this is this and that is that, or something like that.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that. But like, they go to the Cafe Lamont and like he introduces himself as, "I'm an American-made stud of Japanese descent."
Oh, man.
When he introduces himself to Marie. And like Marie warns him, like, there's been this underwear thief reported in the area. And like Alex tries to talk all big, like, underwear are just cloth when no one is wearing them. And they're both like, "Oh, really? Like, tell us about all of like the girlfriends you've had and what ages they were." And he's just like, he's not a player. And so Natsuo uses his knowledge. So like on their way home, they see this underwear thief like run out of a house with like a bra, and they chase after him. And like Natsuo knows the streets well, so they corner him. And like Natsuo's like holding the guy, and then Alex jumps like 15 feet in the fucking air and does a flying kick and yells like, "Say your prayers!" And I just love this guy. I don't know why he's in the show, but I love it. And so they're at the police station like wrapping this up, and like Rui shows up to like identify her underwear, and then Alex asks Natsuo like, "Hey, that girl's super cute. Can I go out with her?" And he's like, "I guess. I don't know."
I guess. I don't know. I also love that response. Like,
well, he doesn't actually say that, but like he basically doesn't say anything in return. He's just like, and like apparently most of the underwear the thief stole were in small sizes. So he apparently had pedophile tendencies, according to Rui. So anyway.
And they don't actually say pedophile tendencies. They say
they do.
lolicon. No, they say
do.
lolicon in Japanese. And I was like, well, you could just say he's a pedophile. But I guess I'm glad in English they at least correct it.
I think in Japan, lolicon is pretty close to the meaning of pedophile.
I mean,
if
but
not,
it's a little different.
Pretty much mean the same thing.
There's some cultural differences
kind of has
there.
Like I guess it's because it's more. This sounds so fucked up, and it is fucked up, but it's more acceptable in Japan to be a lolicon than it is if in America you were to say someone's pedophile or like has pedophile tendencies.
Well, there is a very stark difference in that like drawn characters are not real people, so there's a difference there.
Yeah.
So that night when they're prepping dinner, Natsuo mentions to Rui that Alex is interested in her, and she gets angry at him for trying to set her up with another guy and like storms away all jealously. And so he goes to her room later with some of his signature yaki udon, and she's like, "Oh, sit on the bed and talk with me." And he like tries to apologize.
And by talk, I mean with your mouth on my mouth.
With your lips, your supple lips. And he kisses her, and then he like reaches up for her breast to like honk a little bit. And she's like,
"Oh my god, be calm now."
That's what he was doing. He was
now
like,
I know. I'm just imagining the women who you've made out with, and they're just like, "This is what he chose to do. Honk. That's the only move he knows."
I'm not saying I would do this. I'm saying this is what he did.
Sure, be calm, sure.
And she like stops him at first, but then she's like, "You know what? I don't really mind. Honk away." And
Honk away.
Because no one can close a fucking door in this household, Hina walks in on them while they're kissing. And
why is
Hina's
it never like the parents? Like,
well,
why
they're
is it always...
they're obviously always fucking like bunnies.
Well, okay, but
they
like,
love...
have you noticed that the parents are never around ever, except like at convenient? I don't know, like,
at, like
in
breakfast
reality
and dinner, and that's it.
Yeah. In reality, the parents would be the ones walking in on these kids all the time.
Yeah, but this is anime. This happens in every anime.
Hina's like holding this real book in her hands, which I looked up. It's called Fate by author Keigo Higashino, which is like a murder mystery, but I really couldn't find anything about the synopsis of the book to figure out like how it would relate to this scene, except that it's like a big reveal of like something that's been going on, but that's about it. And so Natsuo runs after Hina, and he actually tries to say, "It's not what it looks like."
I know. And you're just
no,
like,
it's
well,
exactly
but you
what
did
it looks like.
I know. I was like, but you did let her kiss you. Like, you didn't fight, and then you did touch her boobs. It is what it looks like.
Yeah.
He just didn't touch them. He honked them.
He honked them.
And so, like, she tells Natsu, like, nothing you say right now is going to change my mind. Like, leave me alone. And, like, Rui goes in to talk to her instead. And Rui tells her, like, I'm the one who initiated things because I actually might like Natsuo. And, like, Hina's like, but he's your brother. And she's like, well, he's not blood related. So and, like, Hina's like, well, I think our mother would be freaking sad if she found out, though. And so... then there's this like pretty funny short cafe scene.
It makes you wonder if the dad would do the shoulder bump like eh.
Oh god. I think he'd be totally into it. He'd be like, all right, good job, Natsuo. I'm impressed.
We gotta get those birth rates up.
Yeah.
No, but just imagine if you dated your stepbrother or stepsister and then it didn't work out. Like, it's fucked up enough if you marry them, right? But at least like you can. But like, what if you date your stepbrother or stepsister and then you break up and then they're at your family things for the rest of your life and you bring like your future spouse and you're like, yeah, this is my stepbrother and my ex, cough, cough.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever thought, oh man,
that'd be pretty awkward.
Be like, we just don't talk about that. Oh.
Yeah. So they move on to this cafe scene where Natsuo tells Alex that like Rui turned Alex down. But then like Alex notices that Natsuo is all depressed and tells him like, well, in Japan, it may be considered admirable to express your emotions without words, but you can't tell what someone is feeling unless you ask them. And you also need to tell them yourself if you want them to understand, which has been like a thing in a lot of romance anime that, you know, but it's nice that Alex is telling Natsuo this. And Natsuo goes, well, like, shouldn't you tell Rui in person then? And Alex, like, this is where Kat was talking about, responds in English, that's one thing, this is another.
I know. I'm just like, oh my god.
It's like, no, it's not. It's completely the same thing.
Yeah. I also just love when I hear Japanese people trying to pretend to be Americans with, like, speaking English. Like, it doesn't matter how good they are at it. Like, it's just the weirdness because you can tell that they're not a native speaker.
Yeah, it's almost always awkward. Yeah.
Well, it's a little. I don't know why I enjoy it so much. I don't know if I'm just like, haha, I can tell. Like, I don't know.
You must have really liked it in Asobi Asabase then.
Yes,
I did.
That was great.
Yeah, she was pretty good.
So that night, Natsuo tries to explain to Hina that his feelings haven't changed since they went to the beach together, and she basically responds, then why the fuck did you make out with my sister, basically? And she tells him, like, she's moving out of the house.
Well, no, but, like, you make it like she's mad at him, and she actually isn't. And that pisses me off a lot, because
I think she's mad.
She almost gives him a pass, and she's like, but if I stay, I'll like you more, and I'll start liking you.
Maybe she's a little jealous.
Yeah,
she is jealous.
She even says it. She's like, I'm a little jealous, and blah, blah. And I'm like, he did something dumb, and your response is, ooh, I like you, and so I'm going to move out because I don't want to be jealous. Like, you're not like, you're an asshole. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess what you're saying. Yeah, it's solely weird. She's like, this jealousy might take over, and I'll do something I can't take back, kind of thing.
If anything, you'd be like, oh, good thing I didn't do anything with that guy, because it turns out he's an asshole. Instead, you're like, oh, I like him even more. It's like, no.
Mm-hmm. And so Natsuo's dad suggests, like, when they hear that Hina's going to move out and live on her own, they're like, oh, let's go to this pre-festival vigil thing together as, like, a last thing we do. And so at the festival, Rui tells Natsuo that, like, part of the reason Hina's moving out has to be because of what we did. And I'm like, wow, you figured it out, Sherlock. Good job.
You think?
And she's like, we should hold off on this whole kissing each other thing for a while. And it's like, yeah, you probably should.
Should probably just never do it again. Permanently hold off on it.
Also, Hina is like the god of goldfish scooping. She catches 46 goldfish in one scoop.
What? No. I don't. Is there something I'm not understanding about goldfish scooping? Because I'm like, there's no fucking way.
Which she must have had one of those drag nets that they use on like commercial fishing boats. Like, oh god, she wasn't using a little scoop here.
Yeah, like the guy didn't specify that it couldn't be your own scoop, and she just pulls like out of her kimono, like she was hiding it like between her legs, and was like, ha, and like has a giant net.
And then, like, she like is trying to show off to, like, for some kids, but she accidentally drops her phone in the goldfish tank, and so it breaks. And so this gives Natsuo the chance, because he finds Hina in the crowd and, like, says, like, well, since you don't have a phone, I should hold your hand so we don't get, separated. Something they do in a whole bunch of festival anime. Yeah. And so they find the secluded area, and Hina explains, like, she's been thinking of moving out for a while, so he shouldn't feel responsible for it. But Natsuo knows she's not telling him the whole truth, because she says this is for his sake and something that's necessary for her as well. And then Natsuo gets like kind of grabby. He won't let go of her hand, and like Hina like has to bite him to get away. However, Marie is in the crowd and like grabs her for Natsuo, and she like screams. She's like, "Ee!" And then he scolds her for like losing her temper as an adult, and she responds with like the episode title, "Well, I don't need to be an adult." And as if to cement this metaphor, like Ayano, who's like the blonde woman who works at the cafe, has her son at the festival, and he like offers Hina like a lollipop. It's like, oh, you don't always have to be an adult kind of thing. And like she takes it and tears up. And then Maria gives Natsuo some really fucking good advice, which is like, once she starts talking again, don't fucking say anything until she's done. Which is great advice, let me tell you.
You learn a lot if you just shut up and let the other person talk.
Yeah.
That is good advice in any situation.
Yeah, especially like situations where your sister accidentally catches you making out with your other sister and gets mad at you, and it's best to shut up.
Because you just confessed your love to her like the day before. So how dare you cheat on her with her other sister? Yeah, those awkward moments that we've all been in.
So Hina tells her like she always felt that she had to keep things together growing up and she was jealous of Rui because Rui had this free spirit but also had this really strong grasp on her own individual identity, unlike Hina. And that's one of the reasons she's moving out. Like, her jealousy came flowing out when she saw them, and she knew she couldn't stop herself from doing something with Natsuo and had to leave before that happened. But now she thinks like, oh, maybe I should just stop lying to myself and pretending that she's a perfect adult and who doesn't want something like this to happen. And so she's basically saying like, I really do want things to happen with Natsuo, and I need to accept that I don't need to be perfect adult about this. And so Natsuo is like, jackpot, and like hugs her, tells her like, you don't have to respond, but I'm going to operate under the assumption that you're in love with me. Ugh. And like, the show ends in this like insert song and like the chorus of the insert song is like, I'm always here for you. It's just like ridiculous. And there's like this short post-credit scene where like they're walking behind the rest of the family holding hands, and it's like, oh god, oh, this is getting bad.
Make it stop. Oh god. Now I'm just imagining there's going to be like a threesome scene that's going to get even more raunchy. And
oh, I hope so.
It's going to be terrible.
I'm excited for next episode, for sure. Now that she moves into her own apartment, we'll see what happens.
Oh, man.
Oh, no.
Anyway, let's move on. That was fun.
Thank you.
Okay, so we got Kaguya-sama. Love is war. More love shit.
Love is war.
So the first little skit, there's this cute fucking middle schooler.
The Emoto!
Yes, it's always the fucking Emoto.
I told you she'd be back.
I know. Middle schooler visits the high school. Name is Kay. It's
Shirogane.
Guess whose sister it is? It's Miyuki's sister.
The Siscon sister.
Yeah.
God.
So of course Kaguya's like, ooh, I need to suck up to this bitch. That's
well,
like,
yeah, it could be her sister-in-law someday.
Ooh,
yeah,
I need to suck up.
This is her in.
Like, and then at the very first thing she says is she's worried about her brother being in this meeting, and I could not understand what the fuck this was about.
It was like a meeting. Yeah, it was like a meeting of the heads of all of the clubs.
Yeah, so like, this is what they say. It's a meeting of the head of all the clubs, and she heard about this rumor that a student's dad was transferred to another country because a student council, and this is exactly what it says, a student council president who was transferred to the school made an insulting comment at a meeting and found it difficult to live in Japan afterwards. And I was like, what are they implying here? What is happening?
Well, the families in this school are so powerful that if like you insult one of the wrong ones, their family can just like make their dad move to fucking Siberia, is what it's implying.
I guess. It was weird. I was just like, what? I guess that's what it's implying.
I like how you're reading into it so much, and I'm like, it was just a joke.
I mean, yeah, but I was like, I don't understand. But anyway, so, yeah. And then, I don't know, Yu comes in, and Kaguya is in the middle of being like, I'm gonna look competent and badass in front of Kay, and then it's gonna be great, and da-da-da-da-da. And Yu comes in and just fucks it up, and is like, I'm the competent one, da-da-da-da-da. And of course, Kaguya is like, ah! And then she, like, instead of trying to salvage the situation, goes into this weird fantasy land for a while that Kaguya is really fond of. I've noticed. Have you noticed this?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I like it.
I don't like it. I don't know. But so she like fantasizes about being like best friends with the sister and all this bullshit. And I'm like, pay attention to reality. And then like the narrator is saying in the background, like, Kaguya is starving for familial love. And I'm like, why? It seems like
she has no family. She's an only child.
Well, but like she has parents.
Yeah, but they also like expect a lot of her and probably have like put a lot of like burden on her shoulders to like carry on the family like
I get
flame.
that. I get that intimately, but like
yeah.
It's not
you
as
guys
if
are
she's
speculating
out on the street,
way too
like,
much.
Dying. No family, an orphan or anything.
No, it's a fantasy for her because then she would be super good friends with her crush's sister. I mean, that's all it is.
Well, yeah, I know, but we're not talking about that. Anyway, Leo.
Wait, that is what we're talking about, right?
We were talking about the familial love thing, though.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Well,
it's part of the whole situation, yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, then Chica comes in, and it turns out that Kay and Chica are already like besties, and so that role is taken.
I had a legitimate good laugh at that point because it was pretty funny to me. Yeah, because like her little sister is actually like really good friends with her.
Yeah, we find out that Chica has like an older and a little sister. Like her little sister's named Moeha, which is like the most adorable fucking name.
Moeha.
Yeah, and her older sister, which they show in like one shot, is named Toyomi, who looks really hot as well, by the way.
Yep.
Oh man, and like she's pissed off as fuck. Like the death eyes come out, and she's already like, "Oh, I hated us so much," and then she says the one thing that Kaguya least wanted to hear. Chika-ne. Basically calls Chica her sister. And Kaguya's like, what? And like almost dies. And like her world is shattering around her. And then Chica's like, Kaguya, why don't you come with us to the store this weekend? And I'm convinced that if she had not done that, Chica would be dead at this moment. This would have been the last
and like
time.
Kaguya's eyes go all wide. And, like her eyes are drawn in the style of Chica's face in that moment, which I thought was really adorable. Like a good nod to like, oh, she's just like Chica in this moment. She finally let her like guard drop.
Yeah,
she's so happy.
Like, ooh. And then later they have this interesting scene where like Miyuki asks Kay, the sister, like, oh, did you have a good time? Blah, blah, blah. And she's like, yeah, it was fine. Da, da, da. And then she mentions that she was so nervous around Kaguya that she couldn't carry on a conversation. And I'm like, wait a fucking second. Does the sister have a crush on Kaguya?
Let the Kaguya ship go!
Oh, God.
Launch that ship, baby. She's
my
love.
gosh.
It's so good.
I actually didn't feel like it was love. I just felt like she really looked up to her.
Oh
It
no,
could be,
she's
but she
got a
gets
fucking
blushy,
crush.
though.
She's got a fucking crush. This is gonna be good. There's
So
gonna
the
be
whole-
a skit about this.
Like basically all the Shirogane family has a crush on Kaguya, is what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Maybe she'll go over to their house and like the dad will be in love with her too. It'll be even more awkward and creepy. So the next skit should be called Everyone is Fucking Lying. But it's not. It's called something else and I forget.
Yeah.
I think it's Miyuki Shirogane Can't Lose.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Another
But,
boring name.
Basically, I like Everyone is Fucking Lying better because it's more truthful and more fun. So exams are coming up. Miyuki pretends that he doesn't need to study and that cramming is silly. And he's like, you don't need to study the few days before the exam. You just need to take it easy. Blah, study, blah, 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 blah. But in reality, he's been like cramming nonstop for 10 days and like has even taken off work, which for him is anathema. And like he's had the highest score for 3 years in a row. And he's like, I must maintain the crown. And he's like all into it. And Kaguya's all obsessed with being like, I will dethrone him, and like is also being obsessive. And you apparently failed last time. And Kaguya, like, you think that you're like, oh, she's worried for him. And like you acts like he's gonna go home and study, but then it's like, I love the narrator is like, but in reality, he's actually going to play video games.
Hell
he just
yeah.
bought a new one, and he doesn't care.
I'm a lot like you in this. Like, I cannot stop myself from buying a video game like 2 days before like an important test or like a job interview or like something extremely important that will ruin my life if I play the video game. But I usually get by okay anyway. But yeah, it seems to be ruining you's like school career.
I don't know if that's what it is, but that's ruining it. But obviously, it's not helping. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I don't know. And then their lies of not having to study, both Kaguya's and Miyuki's, make Chika, an actually decent student, decide not to study.
Yep.
And then they have like this side thing where they're like, and Chika wonders why her grades keep dropping. Little would she suspect the deception, and I'm just like, oh my god, like, stop bluffing. At this point, they show like it's like another flash of you basically like just completely blowing off studying, playing video games, and like his score from the last test is in the background or something.
Yeah,
and he got 197 out of 199. So out of like almost 200 students, he got like almost the worst score.
Third worst. Yikes.
In the entire fucking school. And you're just like, oh, that's not good. And then, okay, so then they come out with the results. Like everyone's fucking freaking out. Kaguya ends up getting second again. And she acts like, okay, I'm fine. Like, I'm not disappointed. Da, 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 da. But like inside, she's so upset and like furious. And of course, Miyuki is like, oh, I'm not that thrilled. I just am relieved it's over. And then he goes into the bathroom and it's like shadow boxing. And it's like, yes, I won. Fucking won, bitch. And like is excited as all shit.
That annoyed me because I have a friend who's kind of arrogant and he like does that shadow boxing shit. It annoys the fuck out of me.
Yeah, like, listen, let's all just be honest. And then I love, at this point, the narrator's like, the final exams of lies and deception then ended. And I'm just like, I mean, it's not wrong. And then they show, like, how Kaguya just, like, basically decided halfway through studying that, like, she was gonna make it so you didn't fail. Because she found out about his fucking bullshit that he was pulling. And she's like, I gotta do something. It's affecting the student council's reputation. Like, da-da-da-da. And she gets him alone. And he's, like, terrified, like, almost pissing himself. Like, gonna die. And there's, like, this scene where she's burning this candle that looks like one of those S&M candles with, like, the low heat wax, you know? And she's got, like, a crop. And I'm like, what is this S&M scene? And she's like, I'm going to take your blip blooping device.
Which is like his PS Vita.
And I just thought to myself, oh my god, she knows even less about video games than me. I at least know that it's not a blip blooping device. And then she just force feeds him healthy snacks and makes him study. And he's like, why are you torturing me so? And like, apparently she just makes him fucking do this until he loses the willpower to resist and just does it obediently. And at the end, he was like, well, I hated it, but she did it because she cares, really. And I really liked the part. I thought it was actually pretty sweet where
Me too.
like the kids are like whispering in the library and she stands up to them and is like, I'll hang out with who I want. And like, I don't really think I should base who I hang out with on what you say about it. And it made me really wonder like what happened in middle school, because I feel like something happened to him that made him start not wanting to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
Probably.
It's
like
probably, yeah, for sure.
There's something there. I wonder if they're going to go more into it or if it's just going to be implied and then they're just going to not touch it again. It'll be interesting.
I really liked Kaguya standing up for him, though, because it made me like her character in him and his character both more, like simultaneously. That was a really good scene.
Yeah, I really liked it. And then, I mean, he passes and she's still not happy because she's like, dude, you could have done better considering all the time I spent helping you pass.
Yeah, well, he still kind of had like a shit score even though it passed.
Yeah, well, but he made progress. But then I kind of thought like, well, if she had spent all that time she spent on herself, she could have probably beat Miyuki. And so like, that's a little valid, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's not cool. And then
oh, sorry. You
I
continue.
noticed this whole fucking episode, every single one of these skits, Kaguya loses. And that's fucking shitty. I demand recompense.
She'll probably get it. Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you get an episode where the other guy
Yuki always
the entire
loses.
time. Yeah.
There was some little brief moment during like the training sequence where like blood was just like spraying out of Kaguya's eyes and she's like stomping around and rolling around in the blood. And I was just like, what the fuck is happening right now? I think it's because like Ishigami was giving her a hard time. I don't remember, but I just remember that imagery like got stuck in my head.
No, it was her when she was away from everybody else that she finally reacted truly how she felt about the scores. About losing to him.
That's it. Yeah,
That's
when she
what it
reacts
was.
to losing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, she just wants to fucking win. She came here to win, guys.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it sucked for her.
That was a fun episode. I really liked that. Made me like you more, which was important because I didn't like him too much up to this point.
Yeah, I always liked him, but I did really like that scene. It really fleshed them out, which is great for a comedy anime, especially.
Oh yeah.
So.
All right, tell us about Dororo.
Oh my gosh, she's still talking?
Yeah, I'm still fucking talking. I know. I never shut up, dude. I don't know. I feel like if someone kidnapped me, they'd be like, shit, she won't stop. And they'd just like hand me back. They'd be like, we can't handle her. It's too much.
Well, you weren't bad at all when we met with Brains. I think Brains and I talked way more than you did.
That's because we've been up all night the night before drinking again.
Mm-hmm.
And I was tired.
She's like, I'll just drink this beer and eat these fried pickles.
I love fried pickles. They're one of my favorite things.
They are really good. I had them for the first time a couple years ago, and I was surprised at how much I liked them.
Wait a second. You had them for the first time a couple years ago.
I hate pickles, like, historically, and, like, only recently have I started to, like, try them more, and fried pickles were great. Yeah.
I adore all things pickled, and so for me, fried pickles are, like, the best thing.
Did you dip them in ranch pecan?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That's
really
the
good.
only acceptable.
Wait, Leo, do you like pickles?
No.
Oh, God damn it.
No, just Brains and Cat ate the pickles.
I was like, yes, the pickles. I love it. But anyway, this episode of Dororo was called The Story of Saru. And there's this like epic intro where a village gets like this weird black ash rain, like rain down on the town. And like this elder comes out and he's like, it's Noko Sara Gumo or whatever. Whatever the fuck.
That's worse than your Italian pronunciations.
I know.
Honestly, it was pretty
that's
decent.
Just a bastardization of whatever the fuck you say it. It's been a minute. And And they're like, ooh, and apparently that translates to like the forsaken cloud or so. I love the idea of someone in Japan hearing this, and to them it just sounds like Nursusada Gumo. Like we're saying, like we spat in a corner and then tried to say it. Like we're so fucking Midwestern. And he's like, we must prepare a bride, and so they like start doing that apparently. And then Dororo and Hyakimaru are going through this hot spring area, and it smells like stinky, like sulfur, and Dororo hates it. And they see this bridal parade go through, but something doesn't seem right because the bride just looks like fuck. Like her face is like, I hate this. Like, fuck me. Like, she's not like happy. And then a little boy runs out and tries to shoot arrows at the parade. And Dororo's like, yo, dude, like, don't shoot arrows at a marriage parade. Like, that's not cool. And tries to stop him. But he says, like, no, my sister's being made to marry a monster. Like, don't let it happen. I won't let it happen. And he's like, well, why don't you explain it to us? And, like, if we want to help, we'll help or whatever. And so he takes them aside and all that. And explains, basically they're making her marry this weird ash cloud in order to appease. It's almost like
they're offering her as a sacrifice.
Yeah, pretty much. It's like the dragon situation. Kind of like in medieval Europe.
Masutan all over again.
Yeah, it's like medieval Europe where they'd be like, here, dragon, have this young virgin. Like, or whatever. It's like that. Dororo explains that, like, Hyakimaru can kill the monster for a fee. And, like, the kids gives him, like, I love this. The kid, like, grabs out of his pocket or some shit, like, a bunch of maggots. And there's also some gold in there.
Yeah, one tiny piece of it.
Yeah, and
as
he's like,
one keeps maggots and gold in your pockets during that time period.
Yeah, apparently. And he's like, the maggots are great food. And he's like, but what about the gold thing? Can you get more of that? And he's like, yeah, I can find more of that, maybe.
Plenty of that stuff where I got this one from.
And there's like, okay, then I'll help you. And then they have this scene where Dororo and this kid, who you find out later his name is Saru, they sneak up on these grown-ass men who are on the lookout with the bride, like, just, like, guarding her. They sneak up on these grown-ass men from behind and knock them out, like, in tandem. Like, I feel like at that point, if you're letting a young child knock you out, you deserve whatever happens to you.
Yeah.
That was pretty pathetic and epic.
They deserved it.
Yeah. The sis is like, no, I won't leave because I don't want you to die. Because if I don't sacrifice myself, everyone will die, and that includes you. And then suddenly the cloud comes down and, like, eats the two men first. And Hyakimaru, like, tries to attack it, but he seems to be having issues seeing anything because the cloud is part of the monster, and so everything just looks like red to him. Like, he can't see because everything just looks evil.
So he's, like, truly disabled for the first time in the show, kind of. Like, he can't do anything. Yeah. Or he can barely do anything.
This is, like, the devilish ghoul. Like, so it's one of the ghouls that are part of the pact or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it takes the sister away, and it's like a giant centipede creature, and it kind of like reveals its true form in that instance. And I thought at first, like, because this hot spring like shoots a geyser into the sky, and it creates like a temporary opening for the sun to come through the cloud, and then that hurts the centipede. I thought that the hot spring itself was hurting the centipede. But then you find out later it's actually
it's the sun.
The sun. Yeah. It might have been cooler if it was the hot spring, but
water hurts it. What is it? What was that?
It's a fire type Pokemon.
No, I was thinking the movie that the aliens got.
Signs.
Yeah.
Signs. M. Night Shyamalan. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So apparently the woman wasn't Saru's real sister, and he was actually raised by animals and like lived alone, and the village people like shunned him, which is really sad. Like, you think if there was a child who was living on his own at the outskirts of a village, someone would be like, we should help that child, but apparently not. But the woman came and like healed his broken leg and gave him his name because he didn't have a name before. So that's why he thinks of her as his sister. And apparently, at this moment, you find out the centipede got even fucking bigger. And they're like, because it didn't shed its skin.
You say he was raised by animals. I think this was a missed opportunity for our CGI bear to make a comeback.
Shit.
We need a CGI Baloo. I think that would be pretty awesome.
That would have been cool.
I hope he's doing okay.
All right, go on.
Okay. And we find out the centipede's gotten bigger and it's like shed its giant fucking skin.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, okay, we need to get on with this because it's just getting bigger. And they have Dororo dress in the bridal gown. And when the centipede comes, like, ooh, another bride. He like tries to lure it toward Hyakimaru. But then he trips and like barely makes it to safety. And Saru like shoots it with a bunch of burning arrows. And that does hurt it, but like not really a lot. And then Hyakimaru like tries to shoot the head with a bunch of arrows, and it looks like he keeps missing, and you're like, oh fuck, dude. But then you find out later like he was using that so that he could hear where the centipede was, because like when it's bouncing off the head, the arrow he can see in his mind where it is, right?
It's pretty awesome. Yeah,
that is awesome. It's like echolocation with arrows. And he uses that moment to like slash with the sword and like takes out one of its eyes. And Dororo figures this out and is like, I'm gonna help! And like jumps on the thing and yells and is like, Hyakimaru, this is where it is! It's here! But then he gets like knocked out for a second.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, that didn't work out well for you, did it? And he's like stuck tied to the thing and he's like being bounced around and his like limp body is lolling. And Hyakimaru is like yelling because he doesn't know where he is and he thinks he's hurt, which he is hurt. And Dororo wakes up again after a while and is like, oh shit, I'm supposed to be yelling. And is like, over here, I'm near the eye. And so Hyakimaru jumps up and like with Dororo's voice and slashes the other eye. And so now the monster's blind and it like flies up with them both clinging to it into the sun and is burning up. And then I guess its tail is another head, which is weird as fuck. And like comes up out of nowhere and
it's
tries
been done before.
I mean, but it's weird still.
It's still weird though.
Yeah. And like comes out of nowhere and like tries to swallow Hyakimaru, but like that doesn't really work very much because it's already dying and bursting into flame. And they all land on the river, and you find out like, oh, the sister is still alive too, because she also lands in the river. And I'm like, I feel like that's a fetch.
She hadn't been digested yet, I guess.
Yeah, I'm like, I feel like that's some bullshit.
Yeah, because Mio had to fucking die.
Yeah, I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure that would not have been the case. But okay. And then the fake nose comes off of Hyakimaru.
Plop.
Just okay. Plop. I just love how like little pieces of him just fall off and are replaced by new pieces, and you're just like, what?
And now he needs to like he's everything smells horrible to him, so he has to carry like a flower under his nose.
Well, because he's in the middle of a hot spring, which is surrounded by sulfur. Yeah. Imagine you've never smelled anything in your life, and then the first thing you smell is rotten eggs.
Oh yeah, that'd be pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I don't know, this whole thing where he just keeps getting new parts. It's just like Humpty Dumpty. You had to put them back together again, or what? Oh man. And I don't know. And then they find out like, oh, Saru didn't actually have any gold, but they did get a flower, and like, you know.
Wait, what does gold turn out to be? I don't remember.
It was like this other stuff that looked like gold, but it was something else. It was not gold. It was like just like these yellow
gold?
rocks.
Yeah.
Fool's gold,
Yeah.
something. Yeah.
Okay.
And then so they're like, well, fuck, we didn't get money. But we got to feel good about ourselves. And, you know, Dororo's like, that doesn't fill my belly with food. And then at the very, very end of the episode, Hyakimaru is learning to talk, and he says Dororo's name for the first time. And it's like the first thing we've ever heard him say other than screaming. And his voice is weird. It's like deeper than I would think it is from him screaming.
Yeah, it's Dororo. Yeah, it is pretty deep. Yeah. I don't know. I wonder if he's going to start to say more than just a few little words now.
I hope so.
I hope so too. I like this one moment in the episode when like Saru and Dororo high five, and it's exactly like that high five from like Carl Weathers and Arnold Schwarzenegger and The Predator, where they like high five and like basically flex their biceps. Kind of thing.
Oh my god!
It is like their arms are in the exact same position. I was like, oh, it's The Predator. I was laughing at that, but they were talking all big, but then they like both cried themselves to sleep that night because they were both kids, and it took Hyakimaru kind of taking over to resolve the whole situation with the centipede, but they wanted to prove that they could do it even without Hyakimaru, but they got pretty far, honestly. Like, they're pretty smart, but they needed him at the end.
Yeah. They're getting better.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty fun episode. I don't know if I like this as much as like the Spider Girl episode last week, but it was still pretty solid.
Last week?
The Spider one was better. And
Yeah.
Last
it
week
is
was
getting a little repetitive.
that was a really important episode. So.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It was pretty awesome.
I think they need to stop the like one and done type episodes now and move on to the main climax of the series, or it's going to get too repetitive.
It could, yeah.
But I
It
think
definitely
that
could fall into that.
we're not in danger of that happening. I think they know that too, and they're going to get on with it now.
I think you guys are worried of like the monster of the week. You know, he fights a monster, he gets by part back, and you want more storyline. Like it goes like 2 episodes, and like the Miyu one was like really good and stuff like that.
I mean, Monster of the Week can be good as long as they don't overdo it. I just think it's time, considering how many episodes they have left, for them to get to the main climax. And I think they know that. Like, I'm not too worried about it. So,
Okay. Yeah, I get that.
All right, I think that's it for this week. Kat, why don't you lead us out?
Okay. Thanks for listening. Remember to like, follow, and subscribe to us on YouTube to get updates on new podcasts or videos. You can find all our podcasts on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, or, any podcast player. Like, you can find it on there.
Mm-hmm.
And follow us on Twitter at Nerdom and Other for updates as well. Also, come hang with us on Discord, and you can see my fucking dog making a giant mess of pasta on the floor.
You did post that today. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, and I was like, the fuck? I basically live with a giant raccoon that looks like a dog. And that link is in the description. To join the Discord, please do. We have a lot of fun. And also, fucking write us reviews, you bitches. What the fuck's wrong with you?
Oh, yeah, we haven't asked for a while. We could use some new iTunes reviews. That'd be great.
Motherfuckers, come on. Well, you can do it. I know you can. You're laying, you're in your office cubicle right now. You're staring at the screen. You're not really doing whatever the fuck you're supposed to be doing. I know it. I do it too. Take that time. Go write us a review. You'll get to hear it on the fucking podcast. You can do it. I have faith.
I also want to note, whenever you guys do write it, for some reason it can take up to almost a month before we actually even see that review.
Yeah, it's so weird. Yeah.
So, like, if you do write it and you don't hear it, like, in the next couple episodes, just give it a while, because we don't even know it's there yet.
That's true.
Yeah. All right, and then with that, we'll see you next time, motherfuckers.